Back in what was her second home at ITV Channel TV studios in Guernsey, camerawoman Ros Henry.
Thanks for coming to see us. You remember this?
Yes, and the state it's in.
Along with reporter Roger Bounds, when the big story broke, Ros was there, often first on the scene. That was certainly the case on one of her biggest and most dangerous assignments.
That was the Orion Oil Rig. It was awful weather, and I had a dinner party going on at the time when I got a tip off from somebody to say that this oil rig was heading for Guernsey. It was late at night, blowing a gale if not a storm force winds, snowing I think or sleeting, but it was horrendous and it was hard to believe that this oil rig was going to hit, there we are, the west coast. All you could see were these lights heading towards you, and as it hit the rocks you could feel the vibration underneath your feet. The rescue services were battling underneath terrible conditions.
During the night, mountainous seas have shifted the 9,000-ton rig and its 4,000-ton barge through 180 degrees. It now faces the shore, and the helicopter deck that pitched up and down last night now leans downwards towards the waves. The swell's so heavy that it's taken several attempts for the lifeboat to come alongside. The coxswain decides to move round right into the lee side of the barge. It's closer to the rocks, but sheltered from the very worst of the storm for taking the men off.
It was so windy that once I'd set my tripod up on the muddy headland, I found that I kept having to pan slightly to keep the picture in shot. And it was only because the wind was blowing me and the tripod across the grass.
Goodness me.
So I ended up not where I started. The lifeboat was obviously next to the rig, and just coming towards us where I was were rocks. And when he came in, I mean, he was coming in from the north. You could one minute see the lifeboat, the next minute you couldn't. It was buried in a trough of water.
Does it feel like you're back there again?
Yeah, I can feel the sleet on my face.
Perhaps different health and safety rules then?
There weren't any then. I could tell you some horror stories, actually.
Were there advantages in being a woman camera operator, do you think?
Yes, I think, I suppose there must have been disadvantages, but in the main I found it was an advantage.
Mm.
Yeah. Especially being little.
Yeah. We'll have a number of women camera operators at ITV Channel nowadays.
I know. Well, they wouldn't even let me join the union to start with. So.
Why?
Because I was a woman.
Crikey, that's unbelievable.
And then the British government brought out a white paper.
Yeah.
About equality, and they couldn't stop me then.
Was that not frustrating? You must have wanted to knock heads together.
Not really. I didn't really want to join. I only did it to annoy them.
In 192 AD, monks came over from Normandy in France and established themselves here in the Clos de Val, which was then separated from the rest of the island by the tidal marshes.
This is where I get up and walk out.
I said you might do that. I was a bit worried.
Mr. Henchman, the states already have a committee of horticulture who claim that they have all the statistics and evidence needed to know the state of the industry. Is this in fact a vote of no confidence in this committee?
Oh no, not in the least.
So, this is you in front of camera?
Yes, I started off as a pop reporter.
And then you saw common sense?
Yeah, I didn't like it in front of the camera.
I think that people will begin to listen to me, and then they'll begin to take me seriously.
Oh, it's Ollie. Bad boy Oliver. This was, I think, the first interview we did with him.
Right.
And he was due at the studio at a certain time, which he came at the right time. The receptionist came through and said, he's out front waiting for you, but he's drunk. So I said, well, you can tell him he can go away. I'm not filming a drunk. So he did. He went away. And a short while afterwards, he came back. And the receptionist came through and said, he wants to see you. So I went out, and as I went into reception, he went down on his knees with a bunch of flowers which looked as if he'd pinched from somebody's garden. Said, sorry, these are for you. Got up and walked out.
Well,
so,
he's fallen off his chair.
He did that on purpose.
Mr. Reid, thank you.
He liked to do a stunt or two, didn't he? Because you met him a few times then, didn't you?
Yeah, quite often. Yeah. So he came over and he whispered, "I'm going to jump in the pool halfway through the interview." So I said, "Well, if you do, you're paying for a new microphone." Powerboat racing.
First love?
Oh, this was my once-a-year high. You could keep your drugs or your booze or anything else. Because hanging out of a helicopter, shooting these guys going at speed and getting your feet wet from the spray because you're flying so low was absolutely fantastic.
Well, I'm delighted. I hope you've enjoyed watching those clips.
Brought back memories.
Sadly for us, Ros decided to call it a day and retire 2 decades ago this year. But her efforts capturing Guernsey's living history on camera must surely earn her a place as one of the island's treasures. Wesley Smith, ITV News, St Peter Port.